Hi, everybody. This is a short lecture over the structure of the course ES 2210 Electric Circuit Analysis. There are only 3 students in this class in the spring of 2025, and each of you has taken electricity and magnetism with Professor Amara Surya, and I've worked with you in labs, so I think it's going to be a really fun class. So right now I'm going to present 2 lectures. One is going to be very short, which will talk about our syllabus, and then we'll also talk about our Moodle page. Then shortly I will do I'll do a lecture on chapter 1. So both of those will be posted today, although we don't really get started until next week. So having said that, let's take a look at our Moodle page. And you'll also notice, because you've had classes with me before, that the Moodle page is very similar to the other Moodle pages for classes that you've taken with me. But there will also be a syllabus that looks very similar that we'll talk about as well, but it will be a little bit different. And I want to point out some of those differences because, first of all, the way that we write problems is slightly different than we do in other engineering classes. So the homework template looks a little bit different, not a lot different, but just a little bit. And then the course syllabus, there are more elements that will combine to make your grade. So we will not meet for lectures. Every section, I will post a lecture. So like this lecture will be posted right here under introductory material. And later today, I will also post a lecture here in chapter 1. Each one of the chapters also has PowerPoints, and then I put up some information that is key. And then each chapter will have a homework assignment as well. Now, the big difference is because we have a lab that you will have the lecture homework. So I've got the first 5 chapters, which are the ones that we'll cover before spring break in March. But then we also have lab procedures. So our first lab we will work with in class on January 15th. We will meet face-to-face in Science and Math Building 105 every Wednesday from 2 until 3:40 p.m. Now, for each lab procedure, there will be 3 labs that we will be doing before midterm. And so each one of them has a pre-lab requirement, and then it will have the lab itself, and then a write-up that is due at a later date. So even though there's only 3 labs, each lab has 3 pieces, so you can see that it's not really all that easy. I think one of the differences that you will find is that the lab write-ups for this course are very formal. When we did electricity together, we really didn't have a lab write-out. We might have a handout or something that you had to fill in. But for this class, we will do a formal or nearly formal, at least a technical lab write-up. So any material that we're covering in the lectures, like I said, will be done not face-to-face, but on the internet with recorded lectures that will be placed on the Moodle page. But any questions that you have, we should have time to address them in our lab. So if you have, I won't create a lecture for you, obviously that would kind of defeat the purpose of doing it as a hybrid course. But if you have any questions that you need answered, please let me know. And when we get to our lab period on Wednesday afternoon, we will address those questions. All right, so the first thing I want to do then is to take a look at our syllabus so that you can see the similarities and differences in the courses that you've had with me before. First of all, the ways to get a hold of me are exactly the same. My office is SM 126. I'm available by phone. Please don't hesitate to call or text me on the cell phone, 307-272-1833, although I do prefer text. Please don't leave a voicemail because I don't pick up my voicemail and I won't get your message. So if by chance you call me and you can't get a hold of me, send me a text or just cut to the chase and send me a text right away. All right, the Zoom for our class location is right here. We will not routinely use that, but it is there if we end up meeting via Zoom. And you can also schedule to have a half hour of my time in Calendly. And then, of course, we have my email, and the Moodle page has all of these modalities of communication as well. So basically, the catalog description for electric circuit analysis is we learn the basic concepts of electric circuit theory, including dependent sources, network theorems, first and second order circuits, and phasors. So 3-credit class, 2 credits are lecture, 1 credit is lab. Labs take 2 hours for 1 hour, so we'll have approximately 2 hours of lecture material and 2 hours of lab material per week. In this class, we're going to study linear circuit analysis, including resistor, capacitor, and inductor elements in circuits with both constant and sinusoidal voltage and current sources. Students will learn several techniques for circuit analysis and the definitions of power and energy in electrical circuits. You'll find we'll talk about this extensively in the chapter 1 lecture, but there are a lot of terms that are used colloquially or casually in conversation that are used specifically in science and engineering. And so the first thing we have to do is kind of clear up what words mean exactly in terms of circuits. For example, the word circuit just refers to a theoretical or mathematical model of something that's going on in the real world. So real world is a real world, like if you put a battery on a circuit and you turn on a light with it, for example, that's not a circuit. The drawing that you make of that is the circuit. So that's just one difference. We'll discuss a whole bunch of them. The prerequisite for this class is that you are either in or have completed Calc 2. And we get going with calculus right away. You'll see that a lot of the equations that govern electricity are differential equations, basically, but they're simple to handle using techniques of Calc 1. So we need to have that skill set. It's not a theoretical weeding out process. It's something that we need to do in order to get going studying circuits. All right, so we'll study linear circuit analysis, including resistor, capacitor, inductor elements in circuits with both constant and sinusoidal voltage and current sources. Pretty cool, huh? A lot of stuff. The text is a requirement in this class. In a lot of my classes, you know, I will allow you to have different versions of the text, but this is specific enough that we need to have this exact textbook put out by Pearson, written by Nilsson and Rydell. The title is Electric Circuits, and it is available as an ebook. I have both ebook and hardback book. Just depends on what you like to work with. Either will be fine, but it has to be this book, has to be the 12th edition. Okay, continuing on with our syllabus. Like I said, the grading is a little bit more complicated than usual because I always go 40, 40, 10, 10 with midterm exam, final exam, homework, and quizzes. But here it's a little bit more varied because we have a final exam, midterm exam, which have been knocked down to just 20% because lab participation and lab reports is worth another 40%. So the exams are worth 40%, the lab stuff is worth 40%, and then the homeworks and quizzes, which could be even over both or either, are worth 10% each. But still remains, if you get a 90% in this class, you're guaranteed an A, and so forth. The homework and lab assignments have to be scanned and submitted through Moodle. My email inbox is just too much of a mess and I won't find it. So please submit through Moodle, and also make sure that you submit it as either a PDF or a Word document. Cannot accept anything else, especially Apple products. Create a file called an HEIC. I can't even read it. So don't submit through that. With your homeworks, you'll be doing it on engineering comp paper and then scanning it and submitting it to me. But like I said, PDF or a Word document under whatever's the most applicable case. Your lab reports, you may want to submit them as Word documents. Not sure, but that's up to you. The other thing is I would really prefer you not to submit them as JPEGs. Or PIC files of any sort. Really, I really would appreciate PDFs because it's a lot easier for me to open and read when I'm sitting here at my computer. So if you would do that for me, I would sure appreciate it. All right. So the midterm and final exams are face-to-face unless an egregious something or other comes up. So I really hope and am planning for you to submit, to be sitting in a classroom with me when you take the exam. The midterm exam is scheduled for our lab period, which is March 5th. So we will not have a lab that day because we will be having the midterm exam in the lab period instead. All right, so I've laid out a pretty close schedule so that you'll know what we're going to be covering. Before midterms, we're going to cover chapters 1 through 5, or at least parts of chapters 1 through 5. And then after midterm, we're going to cover chapter 6, 7, we skip 8, we do 9 and 10. So 6 through 10, skipping 8 would be the best way to put it. I've laid out the lectures this way, even though, like I said, we are not meeting for lecture, but the week of January 14th, which is the first week, we'll be doing chapter 1 and perhaps beginning chapter 2. Then the following week, we'll do part of chapter 2. And in the third week, we will finish off chapter 2 and begin chapter 3 and so forth. But this schedule is also on the Moodle page, and I update the Moodle page more frequently. So if there's something, hang on. No, that's not the one I want. Sorry. I'm trying to find, I've got too many screens open. We'll be updating the Moodle page more commonly, and the Moodle page is where the there we go, is where the more accurate schedule is. So changes will be made here. So if you wish to see what's going on with the schedule, check right here, and you can see everything that we're going to be covering, including the names of the topics. You can also see our lab schedule here, showing you what we'll be doing on each day. So on January 15th, we're going to talk about lab safety procedures and lab expectations, and then we'll begin lab procedure number 1 on January 22nd. Now, just like I said, when we come down here to lab number 2, you'll see that there's a let's go to lab number 1. I'm sorry. Lab procedure number 1. This is what we'll do. We'll get started with this on the second lab day on January 22nd. And there will be these elements. You'll have to submit the pre-lab questions. That's due before we begin the lab. Okay. And then the write-up comes afterward. So in the meantime, what I would like you to do is to make sure that you use engineering comp paper, that you take a look at the syllabus, that you have the textbook, and that you're ready to hit the ground running. So our first recorded content lecture for chapter 1 will be posted by January 14th. So you need to get started with that. And then there's nothing for you to read really in advance of our first lab procedure, but we will talk about the safety procedures. Yep, I do have it up there. I'm sorry. There is something for you to read for the first lab, which is on our Moodle page. You'll see right here where it says lab safety and procedure expectations. So read that before you come to lab on Wednesday the 15th. And then also sometime on January 14th or shortly thereafter, make sure that you watch the video for chapter 1, that you read the book for chapter 1, that you look at the PowerPoints for chapter 1, and you get started with the homework. So it'll be a big week. It'll be a lot of fun. And I think it's going to be enjoyable for all of us, although not easy, but very interesting. And we have a lot of ground to cover. So I'm looking forward to working with you. All right. Having said that, everybody, thank you for your time. And I will look forward to visiting with you and seeing you face to face. in SM 105 on January 15th. Have a great day. Bye.